That's one of my favorite quotes. Kyle, you like it as well? It's because we're good dudes. DarbyCast, Wildcard Friday. Kyle and I were just talking about power quotes. And this is one of them. It is usually futile to try to talk facts and analysis to people who are enjoying a sense of moral superiority in their ignorance. Sound familiar? .com? Boy. We have a lot of laughs on the DarbyCast, but occasionally you got to do a bit of not a full about face, but like a 20-degree turn. Be like, maybe we take things a bit more head on and talk about dipshits named Cavendish. Do this thing right. Put yourself in the shoes of a latte-drinking, limp-wristed, skinny fuck named Cavendish. Also, maybe think about being that guy's dad. That's got to be a nightmare, right? Imagine that you have a kid who grows up and every day he's wearing a hammer and sickle t-shirt. He's wrong about just about everything and spends the better part of his waking hours online defending pedophiles and war criminals. That's your kid. That's Cavendish for you. Good guy, right? Cavendish lives in the city and he enjoys a hoppy IPA. He likes to play video games at the arcade and gets the Sunday scaries and posts about it. Cavendish enjoys things like adulting. And he has a bust of Greta Thunberg on his mantle inside his apartment that he pays $8,000 for 100 square feet. We should all be so Cavendish, right? Can we just reorient ourselves a little bit more Cavendishly? It's about damn time that we Cavendished the situation. But imagine that, being wrong about everything and then defending your wrongness and at the same time thinking that you are sweet. That's a tall glass of Cavendish with a little whipped cream on top. Can you imagine looking at the world right now and thinking that to turn things around, you just had to stop the Christians? But imagine being Cavendish's dad. That's a tough pill to swallow, right? Be like, well, I blew it from the start. I let my wife take point on naming our kid and she arrived at Cavendish. And now I'm divorced. She has half my stuff. Why did I marry a chick named Susan? I thought it was fashionable because I saw that show, Suddenly Susan. What was I thinking? Then all of a sudden, it's suddenly Cavendish. Cavendish is allergic to tree nuts. You can't bring him around anything as a youth. Imagine being so sheltered that all of the stuff going on right now, you could be convinced easily that getting things back on track would be right around the corner if we could just implement more Cavendish-esque policies. Imagine being Cavendish's dad. Check that. Let's rewrite the script. Maybe Cavendish's dad's a total lost cause and not somebody we should pity at all because, in fact, he was a huge part of the problem because he never lifted a weight in his life and never took his son fishing or hunting or tried to foster any interests and said, Cavendish, I see where this is going. We need to stop what you're becoming. You are going to become a blight. You're going to become an extra large AIDS sandwich of a person if we don't do something about this. Maybe Cavendish's dad was the issue. Maybe his mom just got wrapped up in way too many episodes of whatever the hell she was watching. And she's like, I want to marry a sensitive guy who has no masculine qualities whatsoever. That'll turn out well, having kids with that fella. I'd like to have a kid that doesn't respect my husband at all. Is that what some of these chicks think? Did they just fall for it? Did they watch too many rom-coms and just say to themselves, I'd love to get linked up with that guy who listens to a lot of Boy George? That would make my life. Is that what happened? But yeah, let's zero in on Cavendish. Enough about Cavendish's parents and their complete and utter failures. Imagine Cavendish living in LA and the mental gymnastics that he's performing because he can't fathom that the world's crumbling around him because all of the things that he believes in, he thinks are actually pretty sweet. So put yourselves, if you can, in the shoes of Cavendish. Yeah, right? You're walking through the streets of LA, you're petting homeless people and being like, I think you're sexy. Because for one reason or another, that's how these guys operate. That's the progressive thing to do nowadays. And if it's not, it will be in like a week. Government mandate, you need to caress the homeless. Then we can finally get back on track. Cavendish is totally part of the resistance. That's why he has all the same viewpoints as all the large corrupt institutions that currently have a stranglehold on the entire world. Cavendish is fighting the good fight. He has a degree in history studies. Why not history, you ask? Because it's cluttered full of new age bullshit, just like any degree that has studies tacked on to the back of it. You can be damn sure that a degree with studies on it is a lot like social studies in public schools, unadulterated propaganda. Cavendish hates white people. What a pro, right? He knows it's the right thing to do. What are the things that Cavendish believes? Cavendish loves chicks in power suits. He almost gets a chub when he sees a pair of slacks on a chick with a bowl cut. He loves it. Cavendish is not afraid to tell you about how much diversity means to him. And then when you ask him, you say, Cavendish, what percentage of diversity is the right amount? He says 100%. And then you say, so where's the European percentage of that? He says, it doesn't exist. And then you're like, hey, Cavendish, aren't you like Portuguese or something? But yeah, Cavendish.com. What a guy. Are those guys ever going to come around? Are they ever going to kind of start getting with the program? Are they ever going to listen to the Illuminati Mike series? Boy, if you know anybody who is operating quite Cavendishly, you might want to send them the Illuminati Mike series, parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the DarbyCast. I feel like we all need a little bit more Illuminati Mike in our lives. There used to be a time back when conspiracy theorist was a pejorative, but now, what a title it is. Be like, oh, you understand everything that's going on right now? In a way that is substantially more accurate than CaptainCavendish.com. Cavendish wants to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down on all of the policies that have turned the country into a nightmare. Let's do a booster shot every 3 months, said Cavendish to himself in the mirror as he plucked his nipple hairs with tweezers. Cavendish can't grow chest hair. It's just raging nip hair. Looks kind of like a hurricane. The eye of the storm is his nipple. And he looks at that raging nip hair, and it reminds him of hurricanes. And he looks at his bust of Greta Thunberg, and he's like, extreme weather events. Son of a bitch. Just imagine being wrong about absolutely everything. And then telling people that they need to get with the program. It's like, what program? You're all over the place. Cavi, what the hell does he go by? What do his friends call him? What would his friends call him if he had friends? Do they know? Does Cavendish know that everybody just fucking hates him? Like at the very core of their being, it's like, oh, sweet, Cavendish is here. And that everything people say to them is tongue in cheek. Just tiptoe around Cavendish, the office tyrant. Cavendish works in HR, and he's coming for you. He loves gossip, especially if it's about people having the wrong idea about something. You're in the office, you say, I don't know if I like the direction of the company. It seems like we've pivoted from doing business and all we are doing is manufacturing and putting out ideology that is completely divorced from reality. You say that, guess who's knocking on your door? Suddenly, Cavendish. Oh, he's there. Cavendish is there with his cell phone recording. Gets in your face and says, say it again. Say you don't believe we're trying to get all the right things done here. And it's like, Cavendish, we're not. And he's like, well, you're blackballed from the world. Canceled. And it's like, Cavendish, do you know what cancellation really looks like? It's a bullet to the skull. All this digital cancellation is not really that serious. People are treating it like it's a big deal, and I guess in some capacity it is. But the cancellation that you should probably be most concerned with is a bullet to the fucking skull, Cavendish, you idiot. You can't say that. And it's like, don't you get it, Cavendish? People's patience with you is wearing very thin. Open your eyes, pal. Everybody fucking hates you. Either that or they're laughing at you. Or both. Boy, are these people easy to ridicule. On the DarbyCast, it's open season, right? On these hysterical lunatics who start every morning with a glass of pumpkin spice eggnog. It's always in season for them. They've always got pumpkin spice eggnog on deck. Cavendish, you better believe he's got it on deck. Start that off, hit a couple tweets and be like, fuck white people. It's like, way to go, Cavendish. You're totally doing it. You get it. Good job. Pluck the nipple hairs, get those things out of there. Don't want the perfect storm on your chest, right? Say a prayer to Fauci, make out with your Greta Thunberg bust. And it's like, Cavendish, that's teetering on something that's illegal. That bust was made when she first hit the scene. She wasn't of age, Cavendish. What are we doing here? And truth be told, Cavendish isn't the problem. He's a symptom of the problem, right? If you want to zoom out and go high level, Cavendish isn't in control of anything. He's really not. He wants to feel like he's in control of stuff, and that's why Cavendish tries to make everybody's life a living nightmare, because he can't face the living nightmare that he's in. Being wrong about everything, that would be a lot to reconfigure about your sense of self and worldview. And be like, wrong about everything? Whoa, what's that about? Cavendish has a meltdown, and he tries to take it out on people. That's kind of what it is, right? We're just witnessing the Cavendish eye. What's the plural of Cavendish, Kyle? Is it Cavendishes? Cavendish? The Cavendish of the country? Boy, we haven't done an episode like this in a while, have we, Kyle? Just zero in on an effeminate lefty dude with raging nipple hair. I don't think we've ever talked about this before, but boy, do those guys exist in mass numbers. The best gift that you could give a guy like that is a swift beating. Be like, your dad blew it. Your mom's probably a hooker. Sorry, Cavendish, but this is part of your growth process. No, it's not playing X-Men at the arcade while drinking a hoppy ale. You dipshit. Take a little ownership, Cavendish. How do you wake those guys up? That's been a persistent question on the DarbyCast. And a lot of people, I've chatted with them. I'm like, what do you do with the Cavendish-a-doodle dandy of the world, of the country? And they're like, I don't know. Do we hit him? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. That could be it. Punch him in the face and be like, Cavendish, you're wrong about everything. And you're a pervert. I know what you've been doing with that statue in your house. Everybody knows, Cavendish. You reek of sick thoughts, man. Ugh, you're kind of the last one to know, aren't you, Cavendish? That's the tragedy, right? Of somebody who's patently insane. They're the last one to know. Let me give you an example. I know I'm pretty out there. A lot of the stuff I think is pretty freaking wacky, but I know that. And that's how I know I'm not all the way crazy. Crazy people don't know they're crazy. And that's Cavendish for you. He has no idea. I could go for a couple refugees right now. Cavendish, what does that mean? I don't know. I could just go for a couple. It's like, is that a sexual thing? He's like, yeah, it could be. Very well could be. Is there any way to pull that guy out of his reality? And is it handing him a 15-pound weight and being like, I know this is fairly light, but like, try to curl it, would you, fuckface? Can we enhance your T levels to where you start registering that part of being a dude is standing for beliefs that might not always be in vogue? Yeah, it's not the most fun, Cavendish. It's not X-Men at the arcade, I'll tell you that much. Cavendish, you think this is fun all the time? Think Illuminati Mike's always having a good time? No. Illuminati Mike is doing research, and it's not always pretty. But he takes it head on, and he spreads the message, and he goes up to somebody, grabs them by the scruff of their shirt, and says, Cavendish, brother. I love when Illuminati Mike says the word brother, because it's meaningful. I feel like Mike's a brother to me in a lot of ways. Do you think seeing the world for the way that it actually is like a good time all the time, Cavendish? No, it's not. However, you piece of garbage, you kind of have to do it. You put on your big boy shoes, and those are not LA Lights. Those aren't the light up shoes. They're not Heelys. They're not soaps. The big boy shoes are in fact not shoes at all. It's a metaphor. Cavendish, grow up. Grow up. You got to love the people that are losing it right now. And I mean that in like, yeah, it's fun to laugh at them, but it's also important to kind of pity them and give them a hug. Find a guy named Cavendish. Hold him close. You won't be able to resist a hug from somebody who's done a push-up in the past year. You say, I got you, buddy. And then you sock him in the face and you refer him to Illuminati Mike on the DarbyCast. And you say, you're going to want to go ahead and listen to this. And then he says, no, I've got to go knit a couple pussy hats. And then you say, no, you don't. And then you take your belt off. You say, you listen to this or you're going to get hurt. And maybe that's the only thing these guys will ever really understand is a little bit of good old-fashioned beatings. Kyle, is this okay to say? It's not? Half empty, half full, Kyle. We're going to continue. Put your shoes all the way on, Cavendish. The big boy shoes. Cavendish thinks that all the people in the country right now who are exhausted by him and the ideas that he is trumpeting are the problem. The people who just want to be left the fuck alone and have a family, he's like, we need to get you guys on with the program. It's like, Cavendish, whose program is this? Huh, pal? Is it yours? Did you come up with it? Are these original ideas? Is this the Dish show? Is this the Dish show? Are you running point on this? Did you come up with all these brilliant call-outs? Yeah, I majored in history studies. I get it. How many slaps does it take with a closed fist to get Cavendish to be defeated and be like, Cavendish, we're going to beat the hell out of you until you open your eyes and listen to Illuminati Mike, elite scholar, brilliant orator, totally dialed in with the program. I miss having Illuminati Mike on the podcast. That's a huge takeaway from this episode. If we had more Illuminati Mike in the world right now, things would be going a lot differently. What does he stand for? Some of you are asking if you're newer and you are a little late to the party. Illuminati Mike stands for bench pressing, and he stands for squats. Full range of motion. Guy's a pro. Can you imagine a guy named Cavendish trying to squat, getting a quarter of the way into it and being like, experts have shown that muscle mass isn't okay. And then he just stops and gives up. Goes and charges something pumpkin spice. Puts on a little Rachel Maddow. Did chicks know about Cavendish and to avoid him at all costs? Is that where we've gone wrong? Is not getting the message out to chicks and being like, hey, we have two options and we don't necessarily want to start punching Cavendish in the tummy repeatedly, just knock the wind out of him every time we see him. We don't want to have to do that. So we're going to need you to put him in a sexual isolation chamber. And I think that's kind of happening. Imagine being a chick and being linked up with Cavendish. Brutal. And I feel bad for gals in the country right now, right? A civilization that has been custom crafted specifically to accommodate them. What a dirty trick feminism is, right? Cavendish loves it, obviously. But what a dirty trick it is. Be like, oh yeah, the civilization that dudes created so they could enjoy letting you hang out, that's the most evil thing ever. And a bunch of chicks bought it. And then a bunch of dudes named Cavendish were like, I believe it too. Can I get a hand job? Man, you feel bad. That's the worst part of all of everything crumbling, right? Is the effect that it's having on females. And I don't mean this in the way of being like, oh, poor women. I mean that like poor civilization. It's bad for the kids. If something's bad for the women, it's probably bad for the kids, right? And Cavendish, he got his tubes tied at age 14. What does he care about children? He's busy going to the Museum of Modern Art where they're building trash sculptures because it symbolizes the downfall of the patriarchy, and it kind of does, to be honest with you. Heaps of trash as a substitute for beauty. Wow, that's actually modern art that makes sense, as opposed to Cavendish's favorite exhibit that he's seen in the past 3 years. Period blood smeared all over a stack of 2x4s that represent courage. What is going on with art these days? My goodness. It's Cavendish. That's what's going on with art in a lot of ways. You know, you can avoid reality, right, Cav? But I don't think you can necessarily avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. And what's that reality? A lot of crime going up, violence against women and children, arson, theft, murder, lack of social cohesion, utter despair out of the people who actually know what's going on. Cavendish is doubling, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling down on everything about what's going down in the world right now and be like, if we just had more booster shots, son of a bitch. If we could just sneak a couple more refugees in here who can't read, that's the issue. We don't have enough illiterate refugees. Why can't everybody agree with that? If we got more dudes to lop their dicks off, I think that basically fast tracks us to the future. We're in the space age after that. Imagine being Cavendish. It hurts, doesn't it? If you really allow yourself to Cavendishize your reality, be like, we need to put our cohesive civilization on the back burner to babysit people from the third world who haven't been able to form a functional civilization in the past 500 years to potentially a millennia. You say, Cavendish, why is that important? He says, reasons. Be a good person. My Venus is in retrograde and you are an evil dude. That's what Cavendish says. Boy, does he believe it. And Cavendish is not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem. But sometimes you need to aggressively treat the symptoms of a flagrant and out of control disease. So you get really aggressive cancer, right? Terrible, terrible thing. First, you do the chemo, and that's no fun. But then you turn your lifestyle around and say, I shouldn't drink 80 ounces of soda a day. And maybe I should exercise. That's the process, right? You got to punch the cancer as a social construct, as a metaphor, right? DarbyCast is not pro-violence, although, Kyle, we do use pretty graphic imagery from time to time, do we not? We do. That's art for you. That's real art. Art is a reflection of so much. And sometimes you need a couple explosions as a metaphor. Sometimes you need a throat punch to a guy named Cavendish as an idea. Boy, did this episode come out guns blazing. Did I drink a lot of coffee before this, Kyle? I did? What were you doing? Why didn't you say, whoa, that's like a gallon of coffee? Because it's my responsibility? You're so right, Kyle. My goodness. Yeah, if I'm overly caffeinated, I got to sleep in that bed just like Cavendish has to sleep in a dumpster because that's the kind of stuff that he's saying is the right thing to do. Caress the homeless, Cavendish. You brave soul. Inflation's actually a good thing, remarked Cavendish. 2 more weeks and I think we're really going to flatten this curve. All the way. Love is love. Believe in science. Hi, the name's Cavendish. Here to stay. In terms of a practical solution to the pandemic of Cavendish, what do? Do you just march him somewhere and you say, Cavendish, it's over? That's like the ultimate fantasy, right? Is you take Cavendish and his overlords and you put them on a barge and you just let it drift. And you say, well, whatever happens, happens. I am no longer responsible for interacting with you and tolerating your bullshit. Cavendish loves tolerance, but he does not tolerate the intolerant. What does that look like, Cavendish, you stupid son of a bitch? Who knows? That's what it's coming to, right? I talk to a lot of people and I ask them questions. I say, what's your perception of the way things are going? What do you think's going to happen? And the responses are both uplifting and horrifying, depending on the dude saying it or the lady saying it. When the dudes who just wanted to be left alone start entering the fray, here's a heads up to guys named Cavendish, run. You are in deep shit. When you have dudes who do not worship celebrities, they don't listen to pop music, and they certainly don't give a shit about your vegan diet. When those guys are pushed so far that they're like, hey, Cavendish, I need to tell you something. It's time for your official cancellation. That's a bad time for Cavendish.com. Kyle, have you been buying all these websites as I've been laying them out? I feel like I've laid out more than a few websites on this episode. Very powerful websites. Here's the beginning of the end of Cavendish.com. I know that's a long website, but it plays. You give a little bit of verbal pushback and you say, Cavendish, I have very little to lose, and you don't understand the art of war and that you're never supposed to press a desperate opponent, and you are creating desperation, and you have no idea what you're doing. You're poking a bear, and there is no scenario in this that turns out well for you. It would be in your best interest to flee to Canada ASAP. I don't care as much what happens to Canada, I'm going to be honest. Nor do most Americans. Can we just export all the nonsense straight up to Canada? That's a nonviolent solution to the problem. Naturally, you execute all the traitors as a social construct. But then you take all the cancer, you ship them up north. They wouldn't last a day in Canada in the woods. Do you remember the Texas cold snap, by the way? When people just sat hopelessly in their houses, not making moves at all, and they're like, somebody help us. Take all those people and ship them up to Canada and say, have a happy winter. Good job. And you just let them die in the woods, wandering around in the wilderness. And it's the eco-friendly move, which they'll obviously appreciate. Be like, yeah, we're just trying to bring some vitality into the Canadian bear population. Give them a little extra food. Cavendish would be on board with that. Cavendish believes that we need fewer people on the planet. Well, specifically, we need fewer people in the United States because of global warming. And it's like, Cavendish, you should become bear food. If that's what you believe, you got to subtract yourself out of the game, but you got to do it in a conservation-forward kind of way. Become bear food. It's ethically sound. It's morally correct. Put yourself in Cavendish's shoes. Imagine trying to tell other people what to do from a place of moral superiority, as if you had any sense of what moral superiority even looked like. Cavendish's only spiritual foundation is pumpkin spicing his nipples before ripping the hair out with tweezers. Good job, Cavendish. That's so close to Christianity. You're almost there. Good job with the morality. You're so close. Imagine being Cavendish.com. Everything that functions about society, imagine if you thought that it was evil. Be like running water indoors, talk about white supremacy and patriarchy, all wrapped into one. Roads without potholes? Hello, bigotry. A stable currency? Talk about chauvinism. A population not cheering on their own destruction? Racist much? Howdy, call me Cavendish. Low crime rates? Talk about a racist dog whistle. Sanitation standards? Toxic masculinity. That's what that is. Cavendish, we might have to take you in for some chemo, pal. Nobody's wanted to do it. Nobody wants to go through chemo, but Cavendish, you're a grande cancer. You're even a venti cancer. You love Starbucks, right? That resonates with you. Pumpkin spice, venti, cancer. Cavendish. Low suicide rates? That's white supremacy. Cavendish for 3. Man. Cavendish, do you think people like having to educate you and tell you that you're wrong about fucking everything? I don't take pleasure in this. Just because I'm great at it doesn't mean I enjoy it all the time. In fact, it's exhausting. Nobody wants to have to go to a grown man and be like, hey, you are a dumbass and you have bitch tits. Have you noticed that? What a curse, noticing things, right? As a DarbyCast doctor, you notice too much, right? If you've been listening to the show for quite some time, you're like, fuck, I notice all this shit now and it sucks. Or maybe you noticed a lot of stuff before you started listening to the DarbyCast, and then all of a sudden you listen to the DarbyCast and it's just a breath of fresh air because you're like, oh, thank goodness that this guy's T levels are just high enough to actually say things that are entirely accurate. Oh, I wish my T levels were even higher. I'm not going to lie to you. Sure, I've got muscle mass on my body, but I wish I had more. I would love to do a cycle of steroids that never ended. Just start slapping the shit out of Cavendishes. You just see a dude riding a hoverboard wearing a messenger bag, and you're like, hey, Cavendish. And even if his name isn't Cavendish, it's like Sandy or Newton or Nathaniel Easto. I don't know if there's guys walking around who are named Nathanielisto, but it's coming. Should we name our kid Cavendish? Obviously Nathanielisto. That's the name. Don't wear it out. Pumpkin spice, would you like some, honey? I made a bulletproof coffee for you, pumpkin spice, with a little I can't believe it's not butter. Oh, wait, was that made in a factory that has tree nuts? Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, we gotta burn the house down, otherwise I'm in trouble. Why is this episode so fucking sweet? You're probably asking yourself right now. I don't have this in me every day. I honestly don't. There's some days when I'm a little bit more subdued, less caffeinated, and not so awesome. But occasionally, DarbyCast, you're going to get an episode that's just going to bludgeon you with good vibes. Some of you right now are thinking to yourselves, I need to go lift weights. I'm inspired. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I applaud you. Go do a pull-up. If Cavendish tried to do a pull-up, boy, would his shoulders just rip out of their sockets. And he just goes wailing to whoever's going to listen and say, I need an adult. It's like, Cavendish, I thought you enjoyed adulting. He will not divide us. Imagine being Cavendish. Sounds like the worst. Do you know how inspired and soaked ladies would be if you saw a guy on a hoverboard with a messenger bag wearing a beanie in July and you tackled him and just started beating the hell out of his legs so nobody would see the bruises? Sure, there'd be some gals who are like, that's not okay. But deep down, they're like, oh, fuck. Where's this been? Give me a taste of that. That's what the ladies in the country are craving. And if you're a lady listener of the DarbyCast, you heard that and you were like, quit walking around my head knowing all my thoughts. Get out of here, you big jerk. All the things you're saying are so hot. You're overloading my loins. That's what a lot of the lady listeners are saying. That's kind of the internal monologue. A lot of the DarbyCast doctor bros right now are feeling their chests fill with liquid inspiration. What's that? Courage. The courage to stand up for what's right. And if you're not the kind of person who's willing to tackle an adult playing the X-Men arcade game on a Tuesday afternoon, at least go up to him and verbally assault him and be like, you suck. Everybody hates you and laughs at you behind your back. There's nothing worse and more threatening to the Cavendishians of the country than realizing that everyone hates them. And even worse, the step below that is that everyone thinks that they're hilarious. Because there's a combination of those two things. Most reasonable people feel a couple of things towards Cavendish and the disgusting females that can't get laid that hang out with Cavendish. Contempt, pity, and a little bit of comedy. That's how I feel towards Cavendish. I'm like, dude, you suck, but you're hilarious. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your dad didn't take you fishing. I'm sorry that you don't think shotguns are sweet. I'm sorry that you have a micro penis. But all those things are your responsibility to correct. I don't know how you correct a micro penis, but maybe that's just why you gotta call it a life. Head up to Canada, get eaten by a bear, and save the environment. Deport yourself. Go march in some kind of idiot parade with Justin Trudeau. Whatever they're marching around for these days. There's like always a socially progressive march somewhere in Canada at any given time. That is a constant in Canada. Cavendish, go check out the non-binary maple syrup festival. Heard it's great at this time of year. Pumpkin spice maple syrup, pumpkin spice non-binary. Kyle, I need to soften my tone the next episode. Yeah, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But that's DarbyCast for you. That's Cavendish. Go ahead and find a friend today and be like, I listened to something that was so funny and true that it overwhelmed me. I was overwhelmed by how absolutely sweet it was. Throw him a shaka and be like, do you remember the show American Gladiators? Now imagine that as a podcast. Okay? Do you remember what that was like? It was steroids, it was the USA, it was athletic competition, and it was people getting hurt in a way that was tasteful. That's kind of the DarbyCast in some fashion, right, Kyle? American Gladiators? Do you remember Malibu? Boy, what a hero, right? That guy would have no problem popping the tires of a hoverboard of Cavendish. You know what, Kyle? That's what we're going to go out on. Can you pull up the American Gladiators theme? Can you do that? You already have it up? Kyle, talk about being a great guy. Give it a go. Yeah, let's go lift some weights, Kyle. Yeah, competition, baby. Doing the right thing. That's what American Gladiators is all about, baby. DarbyCast, Wildcard Friday. Boom, gotcha.